Here, the Democrats in 2016, Hillary Clinton. Tell you more about that throughout the programme. But for now, I want to introduce you to my panel that I was talking to. We're at the Five Diner. It's exactly what you expect an American diner to look like, isn't it? Here are my panel, who I was introducing you to a short time ago. Hello, everyone. Hi. Nice to see you. We're just saying how amazing this is as an American diner. Is this pretty typical?
Yes, this is very typical. I've been going here for many, many years. I'm only living 5 minutes away, and we always appreciate the old music. It's killing me because I'm the guy that was actually around when the music was recorded.
Julia, where are we going with American politics for this election?
I believe that Bernie Sanders is going to be our next president. To me, he is consistent on all the issues. He has integrity. He has a strong grassroots support network. And when you look at all the polls, he's the only one head-to-head that's beating Donald Trump, especially in the key states where we need him to.
Okay, Alison, I mean, you're the exec director of the Arizona Manufacturing Council. Is that what your members will want to hear?
I think our members would say it's a little early to decide who is going to be the nominee and who's not. There's been a lot of change so far. We've seen a lot of shakeup. And, the economy is just really strong in Arizona. We would like to see some consistency. We would like to see taxes continue to be low, regulations continue to be cut for our companies. So that's what we'll be looking for in terms of a candidate.
Okay, Clyde, you want to see President Trump back in the White House, don't you? Why?
Well, certainly. To quote from your bard, William Shakespeare, it's much ado about nothing with the Republicans, because we don't believe that Bernie can go with the communists and socialism, and we just don't think that he can go that far. Joe Biden hasn't completed a sentence in the last 5 years. We think he's kind of a daft guy with doddering American presidency, so we don't think he's got what it takes. And Mayor Bloomberg, well, he might be the money, but we see Donald Trump being in the White House for another 4 years, and we're happy about that.
Julia, you're not.
I think that the socialism and the communism, it's basically clouding the issues. I think that if America had a universal healthcare system, it wouldn't suddenly turn us into Venezuela. I think we could probably survive that. And basically that's what he's talking about doing. And I think the whole accusations of communism and all of that, it's just to scare people. It's sort of a hangover from the Cold War, and a lot of voters are very afraid of those words, but I don't think that they're very meaningful when you're talking about Bernie Sanders.
Certainly, Alison, President Trump refers a lot to the economy when he talks about why he should be appointed for a second term. But I was looking at some research suggesting middle-class incomes grew by about 5.8% per year during Obama's last 2 years, less than half of that during Trump's first 2 years. The one or two states that bucked the trend, Arizona, the other one, Louisiana. Why is that, do you think?
Arizona's economy is booming. We've got more manufacturing jobs than construction jobs right now. Manufacturing jobs grew here in Arizona by 9% compared to 4% nationally. And we think that's due to first of all, Governor Ducey is an amazing leader. He has shown consistency. He's kept taxes low, regulations low. If you look at all of the Democratic nominees, every single one of them are proposing to raise taxes on corporations and on individuals significantly. We think that's going to be a real problem.
But nevertheless, Clyde, it has to be said, as I've pointed out in that question, that in the first 2 years of office, the growth for middle-class incomes grew less than half of what it did for the last 2 years of the previous president.
It's been a bumpy ride, we'll give you that. But we're also saying that he can take us to the finish line, and that's our bottom line on what we think that he can do. He's been new. He's had many, many challenges that many presidents haven't had to face, and we feel like with us together working that we can overcome that. What we're concerned about now, of course, is with Allison talking about the manufacturing, the economy, we happen to be very concerned about the virus and how that might affect Arizona and our borders, because we still have our issues with our borders.
Okay, you're particularly worried about what, sorry?
Well, we're worried about the COVID-19 virus. We're worried about how that will affect Arizona. We're worried about how it will affect America, and we're worried about how it will affect the world.
Okay, how worried are you?
I am very concerned about it. I find that there's a lot of information that we don't know, and it concerns me greatly that the test for coronavirus is not available to the states. So we don't have any real numbers on how prevalent it is across the country. And one of our congressmen just complained about the test that we had. For some reason, we couldn't use the World Health Organization's test. We had to have our own test. And that was a faulty test. And it set us back. And in my opinion, it endangered lives. It may have cost lives. And it's going to help with spreading the disease.
Coronavirus, COVID-19. Joe Biden says that the president has not reacted quickly enough. He's been complacent.
I would say that the president's reaction was a bit slow. I have to agree with that, but I think they're getting it together. They're getting a plan. We're taking it very, very seriously, not just from a personal perspective, but from a world economic perspective. In terms of supply chains are deteriorating. Companies are not able to get the goods that they need to produce all of these, great goods and services that we use here in the States. So I think that an over-reliance too on China the past 10 and 20 years in terms of them being a supplier and a customer is an issue. But, yes, at the chamber, we are talking about it every day. We've created a task force, and it's basically issue number one for us right now.
Okay. Quick thought before I let you go. I know you're going to stay with us for the hour, but before we just let you enjoy your... This is not gin, is it?
Unfortunately.
The Democrats ran a very close race in this state last time. Worried?
I'm not worried about that. I think that we're going to compete. I think it's a wake-up call for us, and I've said that for many, many years, that they're worried about us turning purple or perhaps blue. I think we just need to do what we always do, turn out our vote and have our dedication, and I think that we will be fine. Certainly we have these challenges, and we have to confront those challenges, and I think we'll overcome those challenges and be victorious.
I think we're definitely battleground number one. I mean, we're seeing more money from out of state than any other state, to my knowledge. So I think it's going to be a tough, very long fight. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not in the predictions game. I don't have the answers. It's going to be a toss-up.
Julia, Buttigieg, we're going to hear from him in just a second, pulled out overnight. What does that mean for your man, Sanders?
The people who were supporters of Buttigieg have been pretty evenly divided among the remaining candidates, and I think it's going to be a big positive because it will help a lot of candidates reach over 15% of the delegates, and it also gives Bernie Sanders a chance to, with fewer candidates running, it gives him a chance to get more than 50% of the delegates, which would allow him to just win flat out instead of having a contested convention.
Fascinating stuff, guys. I'll leave you to it for now. Back shortly, though. Thanks so much indeed. Thanks a lot. So I hope that gives you an idea of an insight into the US politics as it stands today. Super Tuesday is going to change all of that, though. We weren't expecting Mayor Pete to be involved as well. Alarmingly, surprisingly perhaps, overnight, he pulled out. This is what he had to say.
After a year of going everywhere, meeting everyone, defying every expectation, seeking every vote, the truth is that the path has narrowed to a close. At this point in the race, the best way to keep faith with those goals and ideals is to step aside and help bring our party and our country together. So tonight, I am making the difficult decision to suspend my campaign for the presidency.
More on US politics in just a moment, but now a quick look at some of the morning's other news for you. In the first day of negotiations between the UK and the EU over a post-Brexit trade deal. Talking more about that, both sides set out their positions last week, with the UK insisting it won't accept any requirements to adopt European laws in future. The government's also set out its position ahead of talks with the United States, promising to drive a hard bargain. The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, is expected to attend a COBRA meeting today in what would be her first appearance since her most senior advisor quit and accused her of bullying. Sir Philip Rutnam claimed the Home Secretary orchestrated a vicious campaign against him. Mrs. Patel is yet to respond to the allegations. Greece has dismissed claims from Turkey that 100,000 people have crossed its borders, is what we're being told, in the past 2 days, is entirely false and misleading. Turkish border control has stood down the guards on its own side in order to pressure Europe to take some of the 5 million refugees currently in Turkey. But Greek police have used tear gas to repel any attempts to cross the border. Protests are expected to be held today, calling on the government to take Northern Rail permanently into public ownership. After sustained poor performance, the government took control of the franchise yesterday. It had one of the lowest overall scores in a recent survey of passenger satisfaction. First time you've ever had background music while I've been reading the short nib sequence for you. The other news coming up in just a short time. We are in a diner that's slightly quietening down a little bit now. Local time here is 12:30. I think 12:30 at night is 7:30 where you are, or thereabout. It was an absolutely beautiful day today, likely to be again tomorrow. Frankly, once you're in the desert, it's always a lovely day. What about where you are? We're in the 5 and Diner for you this morning in Phoenix, in Arizona. A 4-day road trip. We're starting here in Phoenix, in Arizona. This is a swing state for the US presidential elections. It's also one of the 14 states that is going to be voting on what's known as Super Tuesday. That will certainly give the Democrats a very clear idea of who they would like to see take on President Trump in that rush to the White House. In addition to this, though, we'll also be going to Vegas, baby, in Nevada. And then after that, we're going to be heading to Los Angeles in California for a Bernie Sanders party. Will he be celebrating or commiserating after Super Tuesday? And then in addition to that, we're going right up to Portland in Oregon to talk about the climate. As you know, President Trump not particularly impressed by issues about climate here in the United States and indeed worldwide. What do they think about that in Portland, in Oregon? Talking about that as well during the course of the next 4 days. We're going to have a quick spin on the jukebox and I'll see you in a couple of minutes' time. Do stay tuned. Away.
Hi, this is John Bon Jovi. Wake up.
To find out who and whether any of the current batch of Democratic candidates has what it takes to beat Donald Trump in November. Only who? Today we're in Arizona, a state which has until recently been a desert wasteland for Democrats. But could this be the year that proves vital in their attempt to plot a path back to the White House? More on that to come in just a few moments. But back where you are in the United Kingdom, and the Prime Minister is to chair an emergency COBRA meeting on coronavirus this morning, and that's following a weekend where the number of confirmed cases has risen to 36. Boris Johnson is expected to warn ministers that COVID-19 will present a significant challenge to the country. 15 British tourists have been allowed to leave a hotel in Tenerife after being quarantined, but many have been left behind. Laura Bondock is there for us. Now, hello to you, Laura. We're being serenaded this morning here in the 5 and Diner in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. Not such a good time for many of the people in Tenerife over the last few days.
No, it certainly hasn't been, Kay, although they've been pumping out the tunes around the pool in the hotel. Many are simply desperate to leave. Late last night, we saw this group of 15 British tourists get on a coach, head to the airport and take one of 2 flights back to the UK. Some were flown to Bristol, some were flown to Newcastle. They're now back in the UK, we know, and they are continuing the quarantine period, which they started while staying inside this hotel. So they are having to self-isolate until next Monday evening. As they left the hotel, the Spanish health authorities had given them a clean bill of health because they'd been tested for coronavirus. That test had come back as negative, but they were all made to wear the protective face masks in the airport. And up until the point they left Spanish soil, one of them texted me saying, "We are sticking out like a sore thumb," but no doubt huge relief relief for that small group. There are, though, at least 150 British tourists still inside the hotel, still waiting to find out when they might be allowed to leave. We know many were having coronavirus tests yesterday. There were long queues inside the hotel for that. They're waiting for those results. If they come back as negative, then they too may be able to fly back soon. But as and how and when, there are still many questions we don't know for that large group still here.
Okay, Laura, for now, thank you. Let's bring in from London Professor Paul Cosford. He's the Emeritus Medical Guide, who they want to have as a Democratic candidate facing President Trump. I want to chat to Adrian Fontes now. Is this me?
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. You're the Maricopa County Recorder.
Right.
How engaged are the people of Arizona in what's happening so far?
I think the people of Arizona are incredibly engaged. You know, this is one of the first states to have voting here, one of the first states to have online voter registration. Right now, people are excited because of the changing demographics in the state. We're the fastest growing county in the United States of America. In fact, Maricopa County is the second largest. So everything you could ask for is happening right here in the greater Phoenix area.
Where are you in preparations for November?
But November is right around the corner for us. As a matter of fact, we are already ordered up all of the paper for our ballots, because it's got to be special paper. Doing all of the stuff that it takes to actually run the election is really incredibly important. We're working directly with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to make sure that we've got our security profile intact. And we're talking to voters about the time, place, and manner of their elections so that they'll understand how it is that the entire mechanism works, because we want to make sure to increase voter turnout here so we can get the real voice of Arizona's voters out there.
You say it's an ever-increasing population here. It's very fluid as well, isn't it? The Latino vote is significantly higher than it was in 2016, which could make a difference.
And it's growing as well. You know, the heart of the Southwest here in the Metro Phoenix area, we've got a dynamism that's really incredible. We have a lot of baby boomers, a lot of folks who retire here, come from other parts of the country, but our native population is also, the rate of growth of our native population is increasing as well. And so, you know, we've got to deal with a whole bunch of different types of issues here, natural resources, economic issues, healthcare issues, just like everywhere else. My main job is to make sure the elections run smoothly, and we're going to see to it that it happens.
And to that end, what are you going to do to try to make sure what happened in Iowa doesn't happen here?
Well, Iowa was a caucus. I don't even know how those things work. We're having a proper election. Folks are going to get their ballots. We've got an enormous ballot by mail vote that happens here. 85% of our voters in the primary in 2018 turned in their ballots by mail. That's about 75% of the voting population starts that way. So we've got a whole bunch of different ways that Arizonans can vote. We administer all of those elections here in a way that really makes access the most important thing for us at my office.
Great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Really appreciate it. You got a coffee?
No, I'm drinking water. I had to go back home and go to bed. You guys are waking up.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice to speak to you. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks a lot. We're at the 5 and Diner. We're in downtown Arizona. To be more precise, should I? We're in Phoenix, Arizona. Middle of the month is when they vote. Before that, though, it's Super Tuesday. 14 separate states decide who they want to have as their Democratic candidate to take on President Trump. Presently, the frontrunner is Bernie Sanders. Will it be on Wednesday morning? We're still going to be here in the United States by then, continuing coverage as we go on the road. Kay Burly at breakfast. Hello everybody, welcome back to Arizona, a state that the Democrat Party has highlighted as a key battleground in the general election here in the United States, despite the fact it's only turned blue once in the last 60 years. A growing Latino population and dissatisfaction with Donald Trump have many Democrats here thinking it's no longer a reliably red state, but there's little chance the Republicans here will just go quietly. One thing's certain, the result here will have huge consequences for the way that the nation swings in November.
Arizona has long been a desert wasteland for Democrats in presidential elections. Not since the Clinton era have they returned a Democrat to the White House. So, what do the present crop of candidates have to do to convince the Grand Canyon state to turn blue?
This is cowboy country, and they are shaping up for a showdown in Phoenix, Arizona. This is Camelback Mountain. The outline is supposed to be the hump and the head of a camel while it's kneeling. Arizona could well be a swing state in the upcoming presidential election in November of this year, potentially bringing President Trump to his knees.
Once reliant on heavy industry, Phoenix is now a more cosmopolitan city with street markets and developing cafe culture. Hillary Clinton came closest to winning here since her husband took the state in 1996. And in heartening news for the Democrats, the last 4 years has seen the Latino population increase significantly, and that's bad for the president. But Republicans point out their registered voters vastly outnumber Democrats in the state, which continues to be a mecca for retirees who are more likely to vote for their man.
The economy is just as important here in Arizona as it is for the rest of the country, and that is something that President Trump prides himself on. Great GDP figures, falling unemployment, and until recent coronavirus wobbles, a really strong stock market.
Arizona decides on its Democratic nominee later this month. They'll need to convince voters that this state's growing economy is safe in their hands.
So the political gunslinging here could have huge consequences for which way the nation swings. But who are the Democrats and indeed the Republicans hoping they're saving their last dance for? I'm not sure if you can hear the music or not. Can you? Can you? I think you can. Let's bring in a couple of our guests who can talk to us in a bit more detail about who they want to have the last dance with. Chuck Coughlin, a veteran Republican strategist, and also Ben Shield, Democratic strategist and director of Bright Phoenix. Thank you both for joining us. Why is your man going to win, and who do you want it to be? Or woman, of course.
Well, I think any one of the Democratic candidates that we have right now can beat Donald Trump in the election. And we're going to do it by staying very organized, by running effective campaigns, working really hard, and talking to voters about that are being left behind about what we can do to change their lives, make it better, and do what is right by those folks.
Okay, how close is the race here in Arizona?
Between the
Republicans,
Trump
and
the Democrats, it's not. It's not.
Pretty close last time.
It was close last time.
And more Latino voters here now
that was
than
when the
last time.
Republican Party was more significantly divided and did not have a very complicated Democratic primary taking place right now. As we can see, they're struggling to find a nominee. And the president is riding a wave of immense economic popularity, which you guys have talked about earlier in the show today, and a feeling of enthusiasm, at least economically, in the country, despite some problems with him individually. The party seems to be doing quite well.
COVID-19 might be a problem, though, as far as the economy is concerned, and his handling of that has been criticised by Joe Biden, amongst others.
Yeah, it has been. I heard what the White House said on Friday in terms of the proliferation of the virus here in the United States. You would think, though, with the most advanced healthcare economy in the world, that our people would be able to be prepared for that should it happen on a epidemic scale in the United States.
Okay, how does Bloomberg hold on past Super Tuesday?
By spending more money. I mean, that's how he wins this race.
He's the money machine, isn't he? I mean, Bernie Sanders has got a movement, he's got a money machine.
He has a lot of money. But I think the race is actually very close in Arizona. If you look at the polling, Democratic candidates are pretty much toe-to-toe with Donald Trump, at least the top 3 or 4 of them. And so I think, we have a really good chance of picking that up and turning the state blue. And it doesn't really matter too much which candidate it is. I think that actually matters a lot less than folks talk about.
But to Chuck's point, that the party's in disarray, you can't decide who you want to represent.
This is how the process process works, right? You get candidates up there, they make their cases for it, and Super Tuesday we're going to be down to 2, maybe 3 candidates. We Democrats all said the same thing about Republicans last time. They said that the Republican Party was in disarray when you have Marco Rubio and Donald Trump and all these guys going after each other. But at the end of the day, we all come together and we're going to support the nominee and we're going to win. If Joe Biden's the nominee, it will be a competitive race in Arizona. If it's Bernie Sanders, it will not be a competitive race in Arizona.
Because he's a socialist.
Well, he represents the activist part of the Democratic Party. He does not represent Arizona. Arizona, as Bill says, is more of a purplish state. We did elect 4 Democrats to statewide office for the first time in a decade 2 years ago. Different cycle without the president on the ballot. The president's on the ballot this time, so it's a referendum essentially on him without the contrast that he can make with the Sanders candidacy is immense.
Not been blue since 1996 in Clinton.
That sounds about right, yep.
Yeah, so...
Oh, there's a lot of work to do here, but it's changing very fast.
Mountain to climb.
We have a Senate candidate, Mark Kelly, who in the latest polls is up between 4 and 6 points to a sitting incumbent senator. And, he is well-financed himself, far more than even the last senator who we all thought was an amazing fundraiser. And so, he's going to carry the state for a lot of Democrats here.
Guys, it's something we're out of time. It's great to talk to both of you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Really appreciate it. Continuing coverage of Super Tuesday on our 4 states in 4 days road trip here in the United States. Do stay tuned our way here on Kay Burly at breakfast. Continuing coverage in just a few moments' time. That's the economy. Talks about it all the time, doesn't he? Mr. Trump has supported small businesses. They certainly supported him on occasion, and he's been a springboard for some of them to thrive. Butter Sky's Amanda Walker reports from Virginia. Not everyone is feeling better off in Trump's America. Bring in 3 more panellists who've got strong views on this. Hi guys, you're live on Kay Burly at breakfast. Thanks for joining us. We've got next to me Christopher Robertson, Professor of Law at the University of Arizona. Then in the middle, Ray Chornenky, forgive me, I want to put an S in there, attorney specialising in criminal law. And then also Josie Fulf, although, can I call you Joe?
Yes.
Excellent, senior advisor at Team Bloomberg, Arizona. Thank you all for joining us. Your candidate is the money man. What else has he got?
What else has he got? A track record of accomplishment, 12 years in the mayor's office. You look what he did with the city in terms of education, climate, and then as a philanthropist, continuing to work on climate as well as gun violence, reducing it. It's way more than money. I think he's clearly demonstrated over the years what he's capable of, what he's willing to do, and what he's willing to invest his time and resources in.
How worried will President Trump be about that?
I don't think at all. I don't think there was worry either on President Trump's mind or in the grassroots activists of the Republican Party in the country, especially here in Arizona.
Why not?
I think it's just inevitable that folks are going to wake up if they haven't already realized what condition we're in now. What's at stake in this election between the 2 parties and the candidates, but what we've accomplished, the Republican Party, the president, of course, mortgage rates, interest low as ever, just so much progress in these last 3 years.
Christopher, you fancy Elizabeth Warren's chances, not least because she was your mentor?
Yes, at Harvard Law School. She was my very first day. She was my contracts professor.
Wow. Okay. What has she got that means that she potentially is the next president of the United States?
Well, from a scholarly perspective, I study health insurance reform, and it turns out that one of the most important voters' issues is quality of coverage in the U.S. And although the Affordable Care Act moved about 10% of the population onto health insurance coverage, about another 10% is still lacking coverage in the U.S. And even those that have coverage have huge copays and deductibles. So one of Elizabeth Warren's big research projects as a professor was to study people going through bankruptcy and finding the relationship between medical bills and bankruptcy, which is still there now. So I think that's going to be a hot voting issue for people. getting quality of health insurance coverage. So Warren, Sanders, and even President Trump has said he's looking for solutions on this issue, but I think it'll really challenge the candidates to come up with practical solutions.
What's the president suggesting as far as health insurance is? Because we don't have, I don't know if you're aware of what happens in the UK. It's not only a problem for us in that we have a national health service, which means that you have free healthcare from cradle to the grave.
I don't think it's so much just the president and what he's suggesting, because he's asked repeatedly for bipartisan coming together to solve the issues of what was left over from the Obamacare health, if you will, kind of crumbling in our time. I think mostly we talk so much about health insurance or health care, and pretty much what the argument's been centered on is insurance, the ability to have health insurance. And yet when we hear folks at home, the single mothers, the women who are voting, they're talking about access to health care, and those are two different things. And I think we at the grassroots of the Republican Party want to ensure that quality of access of care.
Joe, before your guy gets an opportunity to potentially tell us what he thinks about healthcare and health insurance, and be in the White House, he needs to beat people like Joe Biden, who had a really good result on Saturday in South Carolina, and also Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren potentially as well. Biden coming up on the rails now. Your guy's not even on the nomination paper until Tuesday, is he?
Correct. Yeah, so, I mean, I think what Mike's strategy was all along is, all these other candidates are going to invest all their time and money in 4 states, about 4% of the delegates, and he's going to start investing in Super Tuesday states and beyond that no one else has touched yet. So despite that fact, Mike has been campaigning very hard. We have a very big footprint here in Arizona and just about every Super Tuesday state as well. So I think voters are going to be very familiar with him. Clearly, what they see in him, they like his track record, they like what he's doing on healthcare in terms of having a public option, allowing Medicare to negotiate to lower drug costs. And what he's done in terms of gun safety, it's a big issue here in Arizona, taking on the NRA and helping save lives. So I think as we get closer to Tuesday now, you'll see that clearly there's a market for what Mike is selling, and people are very interested, and there's going to be a lot of support.
Mr. Bloomberg is the money machine. Bernie Sanders, we're told, has the movement behind him. What does Joe Biden have if he is going to try and take on the others in this Democratic race?
Well, I think Joe Biden has the Affordable Care Act behind him, which is the bill that expanded health insurance coverage, also known as Obamacare, and the entire Obama legacy that he's really made an effort to connect himself to. So I think there's a...
But many of his supporters say that it's a pretty lackluster campaign up until now, and even he, I saw him on TV yesterday, he was saying he does need to change direction and also try to get more money in the pot.
I think that's an inevitable need for anyone to get across the line, is to have the money to be able to compete. And so, one of the other challenges in the U.S. is private funding of campaigns. And so it's a challenge to build either a huge grassroots war chest or to bring billions of dollars of your own.
Who do you think President Trump is most concerned about facing?
Again, I don't mean to sound trite. I don't think that's a focus at all, a concern. And I believe he said that. I know different parts of his campaign have said, well, if we're up against Bernie Sanders, it's going to be whatever, not that serious. And he said that about each of them. I think he's the kind of person, and we've watched him for 3 years with everything coming at him, that would enjoy taking on any one of the candidates.
I think he's very afraid of Mike Bloomberg. I just look at his Twitter feed. I mean, it's clear every day there's a mini Mike joke. He is afraid. I think he's self-conscious that Mike's actually a billionaire and made his money, whereas Donald Trump was probably not a billionaire and certainly didn't make it himself. So, I mean, I think clearly you just look at the things he says on a day-to-day basis. He's very afraid of Mike's disciplined campaign. He's afraid of his resources, and he's afraid of having his record stack up against Mike's as mayor.
Let me ask you quickly, guys, if I may, about COVID-19. It's a big concern at home. It's an increasing concern at home. We know that there's been a second death overnight here in the United States as well. Joe Biden was very critical of the president overnight, saying that he has not taken it seriously enough. How concerned is the American population about
I think it's a big concern. I mean, people are sort of waiting on bated breath. We haven't seen the number of infections and deaths in the U.S. But we can build walls and try to limit immigration in the U.S., but still people are traveling globally for business, for work, for tourism, and so it seems inevitable we'll see more and more cases here in the U.S. And we don't have some basic social welfare